Hi Vishwa, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What's up? What's going on?
Um, I'm mostly oscillating between housework and then actually the professional side.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think adapting to the new normal,
Right,
like most of us are doing right now.
right, right. Understandable. So you must be working like you must be having your clients online through virtual call.
Yeah, yeah. And I think teletherapy is going to be the new age, the kind of counseling that people would reach out for
Mm-hmm.
any sort of mental health related concerns. So yeah, so I think as a professional also I'm adjusting to that entire telecounseling format.
Mm-hmm.
But over a period of time, it's just been great. It's going on, and it's happening.
Sure, sure. And what do you prefer, in person or virtual? Because some people may prefer to keep their videos on mute and talk more, right? Or do you prefer to see their body language and in person?
I would more so prefer in person, and I think the closest we can get to in person at this point in time would be, via video sessions.
Right.
But yes, I do use a lot of body work during sessions, which is why I think in person would be a priority or
Sure,
a preference.
sure.
But yeah, I think we don't have much choice this time around.
Understandable, understandable. So okay, so let's get started. When did you get started with this field, psychology and everything?
So it's almost been about 5 to 6 years when I did my graduation.
Mm-hmm.
I have had an experience of about 4 years in the field of mental health by working with adolescents, adults, and geriatric. So right from about 16 years of age to uh, 89, 90.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've worked with people on a spectrum of concerns, including anxiety, depression, adjustment, stress, sleep concerns, eating disorders, personality disorders, anger management, grief, and even trauma.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So um how do you work
Yeah.
with people older to you, way older to you?
Uh, yeah. So I think this is a concern that even the elder clients have. Like, you're so young, you have not even been through the phase that we have.
Right.
Uh, but I feel the basic premise of counseling or therapy in that matter remains the same, right? I usually use a neurobiopsychosocial approach, which is focusing on how your brain areas are
Mm-hmm.
affected because of different experiences you're having, because of genetic concerns like family history, um, and at the same time how you have been born and brought up and how those experiences have shaped you as a person.
Sure.
I think this particular part remains same regardless of the age. So it's more like, okay, the every tree may seem or appear to be different from the outside,
Mm-hmm.
but the roots somewhere are similar.
Sure.
Yeah. So therapy usually, and when I'm doing therapy with a teenager or with someone who is as old as 60, 70 years, the minute you start delving deeper into the roots, you realize that, okay, manifestations are different, but
Right.
what is happening inside is
Mm-hmm.
the same.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. Okay. So today we want to talk to you about a specific topic, that is sleep and sleep for athletes. So
Hmm.
let's get right into it. What is sleep
Yes.
exactly? I know we all know what is sleep, but if you could put it in a few words.
So actually, before I go ahead, I would like to ask you, what is sleep for you?
Sure. Um, basically, you know, it's something that you do at night, to, rest your body and your mind for a long time. I mean, a long time in the sense for at least 6 to 7 hours, so that you get up the next day and be refreshed, and you know if that's
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
sleep is
absolutely.
for
And I
me
think,
as a normal person.
absolutely. And, put in layman's terms, sleep is a state of rest.
Right.
Yeah, where you are not only resting your physical body, but
Mhm.
also internally. So your mind, it's sort of a mind body rest that you're providing yourself after a tiring day. And again, by tiring, I don't mean that
Right.
after your work for 10, 12 hours,
Mm-hmm.
right? For us, like, tiring or the word tired differs, and it's very subjective. I think I may work for 2 hours and I can get tired, and some people may work for 14 hours
Right.
and may get tired. So again, it's just providing rest to that body
Mm-hmm.
and your mind after you have gone through something that has been mentally, emotionally, or physically strenuous.
Mm-hmm. Right.
um, and it's such a vital indicator of overall health and well-being. And when I have been studying about sleep for almost now 5 to 6 years, and it's always surprising to me when I hear that 24 years of our life on an average
Right.
go in sleeping, and
Oh,
that's like a lot of time.
sure.
So I think the most underestimated or undervalued component of overall well-being to some
Mm-hmm.
extent is sleep.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. So, what are some of the functions?
Yes, so very interesting, and I think every time this question comes up, it just gives you different functions based on, again, subjective experience. But I would like to cover six very, very important functions of sleep,
Sure.
which relate to every particular domain of your life. The
Mm-hmm.
first one would be learning and memory.
Right.
So when you are in a state of sleep,
Mm-hmm.
your brain is actually strengthening the information that
Mm-hmm.
you have learned or acquired throughout the day.
Right.
How many times have we heard that, okay, tomorrow is a big day for you, I think you need to get a well rested sleep. And this need not only be in terms of exams, but also in terms of if you're talking about athletes over here, or sports person,
Mm-hmm.
right? For them, it could also be performance, right? Tomorrow I have a match, tomorrow I have to go out there and perform. I need to have a well rested sleep so that I can strengthen everything that I have acquired over these weeks or months of practice.
Sure.
um, and again, when you're getting that well rested sleep, you're able to focus better, you're able to take uh, better decisions in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for instance, over here I would like to give examples of footballers or cricketers, where they have to of course, you have your basic strategy in place, but at the same time, on field, you're actually you actually need to take some decisions on your feet,
Mm-hmm.
that,
Right.
okay, if X is not working, what is going to be the Y? And if you have not had a well rested sleep, your decision making capacity reduces or drops significantly. And
Mm-hmm.
again, this is not to do with a few hours or minutes, but even split seconds of sleep are very important when it comes down to athlete performance.
Sure.
The second very important function is going to be the metabolism.
Mm-hmm.
So when we usually exercise, when we are training, when we any and exercise does not always mean just in the sports domain, but I
Right.
would say exercise in terms of even walking, or
Mm-hmm.
you have to reach somewhere and you are maybe driving a car. It's a form of exercise, and it depletes energy and fluids, and breaks down the muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we are asked to eat well, we are asked to drink water, we are asked to provide our body with those nutrients every now and then, and that is just a part of training and recovery, right? But what happens when you sleep is the body actually rebuilds muscles and replenishes these nutrients that are lost throughout the day
Right.
by pumping you with energy, which is why when we have a well rested sleep, we feel more energized the next day.
Mm-hmm.
We are in better control also, of our thoughts, in terms of very conscious thoughts.
Sure.
And at the same time, it helps maintain endurance, speed, and accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
So, sleep deprivation in excess can also cause weight gain due to the way the body processes or stores carbohydrates, which are, energy fueling substances, right? This actually alters the level and makes us feel more healthy in terms of our body,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to someone who would then be more at a risk of, obesity.
Right. Right.
Um, the third very important function would be, preventing falls or mistakes or accidents. Because again, if you're not well rested, your alertness is going to drop, and you may end up doing something in a very, semi-conscious state. Hence, you're more prone to actually making more mistakes
Right.
and putting yourself at risk, as opposed to when you've actually got a well rested sleep and you're going to be more cautious about your environment and surroundings.
Sure.
Um, and just a question for you, that while we are discussing these functions, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've played tennis professionally, and I can
Hmm.
vouch for, when I have, slept well, the difference in
Hmm.
my game as compared to when, I used to probably stay up to watch a late night football match, and then I still had to wake up at 6 a.m. to, to go for my practice. And, just the way I played on those days was, completely different. And of course, maybe 60 to 70%, or even lesser than that, as to how I
Hmm.
usually play with a good night's sleep.
Absolutely. And that actually brings us to something very important, uh, to discuss how sleep can affect our mood or our emotional states.
Mm-hmm.
So, sleep is just as important as food. Now,
Sure.
when we don't get enough sleep, we do not think as clearly or effectively, which can also result in a lot of frustration, irritation, and even minor triggers are enough to just make us snap,
Mm-hmm. Right.
right? Um, Mood fluctuations, for instance, as you mentioned right now, that if you had to wake up early, you had to actually go for your practice and training. Now imagine those days when you've had like a late night, and you know for a fact that okay, I need to wake up in the morning, but still you haven't got that well rested sleep.
Right.
um, that morning irritation is sort of going to be there, where then you're going to hassle, you're
Mm.
going to like be screaming all around, I need, this is not ready, that is not ready.
Right.
Uh, and if you're late at practice, and if the coach or the trainer is telling you something, you may just take it as a personal attack, which
Mm-hmm.
in reality is not even that you know um, is not even that personally attacking. But
Right.
you will start then saying, oh my god, this person just thinks like this. We start talking ill about the opposite person,
Mm-hmm.
because
Right.
in that moment we are not in control of our emotions,
Sure.
and primarily because sleep. And one more thing that goes really, I think, hand in hand with sleep is also going to be nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
which is so important, because again, if you're not well rested, uh, your body has not really broken down those nutrients that you have consumed in the previous day,
Sure.
making you feel a lot heavier. And you may also feel like, okay, now I just don't want to eat. So
Mm-hmm.
sleep affects breaking down those nutrients, and also making you hungry, I think, is one important role of sleep.
Mm-hmm. Right.
um, because it plays a very important role in the wear and tear of these carbohydrates, minerals that we consume through the day.
Sure.
If it's not broken down, again, you're not going to feel hungry. If you don't feel hungry, it's going to start impacting your mood, and it can also lead to different emotions such as anxiety, stress, feelings of overwhelm, easy fatigue.
Right.
Is it something that is relatable to you as well?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Mm-hmm. Right.
um, the fifth function of sleep would be, how there are different illnesses, chronic illnesses, that could that could be a result or a consequence of poor sleep over years. So it's not
Can
like
this
okay,
also
one
be
night.
sure? Can
Yeah,
this
yeah,
also be can this also lead to probably muscle injuries as well?
absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Right, because if I'm not getting enough rest to repair the muscles, if I'm not, which is why I think pain is something that I'm going to cover soon, and how these muscle injuries, of course, they cause pain, um, and how pain also can affect sleep. I'm just going to be covering that in a bit.
Sure.
um, to continue with the fact that it's not just one night sleep that can cause all of this.
Mm-hmm.
you know it's like over months or weeks or years. uh, Chronic difficulties in sleep, like poor quality of sleep, can also lead to chronic illnesses such as hypertension,
Mm-hmm.
um, diabetes, um, cardiovascular disease.
Right.
um, and after interacting with a lot of people, and I think even in my practice, whenever people complain of pain, or when people complain of mood swings, when people complain of you know blood pressure fluctuating, the first question I ask is, okay, how is the sleep quality?
Sure.
So it actually leads to irregular heartbeats, which definitely has a very negative impact on your entire body.
Mm-hmm.
The sixth one would be the immunity system. So
Right.
sleep is imperative to keep this immunity system healthy.
Mm-hmm.
um, as professionals, as any sports person, immunity plays a very big role, because there are times when you have to even practice or get trained in, you know um, on days where there is excessive sunlight or
Sure.
harsh sunlight.
Sure.
When you have to wake up, especially there are times when you're playing and suddenly it starts raining. You have to play when winters have just hit,
Mm-hmm.
and this is, I think, across the world. Immune system takes a toll, right? Because the body
Right.
needs to now start adjusting to the outside environment, and sleep and rest can actually help the body take on disease and illness, and help you get well better. So even in terms of, I think, relating it to the current scenario, the pandemic that we are going through, how many times have we had people say that, okay, if you have a flu,
Mm-hmm.
rest it out,
Right.
sleep well.
Right.
Medication are such that are sleep inducing. They
Mm-hmm.
facilitate sleep,
Mm-hmm.
especially in terms of flu or any kind of other illness that you're going through. It could be a gastric infection, it could be a pain or an ache, and all these medicines actually facilitate sleep. A disclaimer: please do not take these medicines without consulting in your general physician
Sure.
or a specialized person,
Mm-hmm.
um, to just to prevent side effects of medication.
Right.
um, and coming to the seventh most important function, which is pain, that you brought up.
Yeah.
uh, so the impacts of pain on sleep, I think, is increasing right from the research being conducted since the last few decades. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
about the last few years, but again, pain tends to have um, two important concerns, which is one is stress and one is poor health.
Okay.
When I'm in pain, I'm constantly going to be thinking about, oh my god, this pain is not letting me sleep. I'm going to keep looking at the clock. It's 1 o'clock. This pain is not reducing, and I'm still not being able to manage this pain better, and we start popping pills.
Right.
Right now, what happens over here is we feel that, okay, the of course the pills provide us short term relief, but that's not healing the pain, or
Mm-hmm.
that's not healing the muscles that have you know um, torn due to strenuous activities. And of course, in fields like sports, um, this is a very common thing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Muscle wear and tear is going to happen,
Sure.
considering the kind of exercises and routine that these sports people follow.
Sure.
uh, but again, pain really narrows the sleep gap, making sleep quality worse. Like getting the sleep getting more and more worse.
Mm-hmm.
um, and which is why seeking help at the right time is imperative. So like there are people even in the sports team where we have
Right.
the first aid team,
Right.
where we have even sports psychologists who
Mm-hmm.
actually help you manage these stress levels and anxiety better. Because again, physiological changes, so muscle wear and tear is also a form of physiological change,
Sure.
and that can also happen because of excessive feelings of overwhelm, anxiety, not just related to sports or not just related to performance, but even there are times when back home you've had a difficult time
Right.
and you're still not able to get your mind off it. It may affect your performance on field.
Definitely. Definitely.
Right, so constant check-in with therapists or counselors can actually help you regulate these emotions in a much healthier way. Hence, when it comes to sports, it's not just emotion well-being, but I think it's holistic well-being
Mm-hmm.
in terms of your physical care, cognitive care, which is your memory, attention, planning, decision-making capacity,
Sure.
emotional care, um, and also to some extent, your nutritional, your
Mm-hmm.
diet,
Right.
uh, because that plays a very important role in building your immune system.
Sure. Sure. So, Vishwa, I wanted to know this. Are there any ideal sleeping hours?
Oh, yes. So, just to have this, the sleep wake cycle that our body internally has,
Mm-hmm.
is called the circadian rhythm.
Okay.
Um, there are times I do, after talking with people who have been in the field of sports and, who follow a very strict routine in terms of their sleep wake cycle,
Mm-hmm.
right? They follow a diet time that okay, this is the time I'm going to have my meal, this is the time I'm going to go to bed,
Right.
and that actually helps.
Right.
So to walk you through the ideal sleep hours, um, so basically for newborns, it's often 14 to 17 hours of sleep that they need.
Mm-hmm.
For infants, toddlers, and preschoolers, it's somewhere between 10 to 15 hours, which is why children who are in nursery, who are in playgroup, parents ask them to go to sleep by 8 p.m.
Right.
because next day they have to wake up at 8 or 9 to be ready to reach school by 10.
Sure.
Right, for school age children, that is from 6 to 13, it is 9 to 11 hours. Of course, these hours that I'm saying are plus minus 2.
Sure.
Right, there are situations that come up in our lives where we can't really control and abide by the sleep wake cycle, but however this is a range that has been proven to be scientifically effective in terms of you know uh, keeping the body healthy.
Sure.
For teenagers, and I think that's when school age children and teenagers are the is the time where people actually start involving themselves in sports or in themselves in different extracurricular activities that they are interested in. So
Mm-hmm.
for teenagers it would be around 8 to 10 hours.
Right.
For younger adults, which is 8 to 25 years, at least 7 to 9 hours.
Okay.
And this is even for adults who up until the age of 64. So 7 to 9 hours remains like an ideal sleep time. And then for older adults, which is 65 plus, about 7 to 8 hours. It's important to remember that with age, your sleep quantity, that is your sleep duration, may decrease.
Mm-hmm.
However, if the sleep quality is not well, then that is something like a red flag for you to consult a specialist to help you sleep better. So to get a well rested sleep.
Right. Mm-hmm. Understood. Understood. And yeah, so these are sleep hours, but are there, specific time, like, is it the same? Okay, is it the same where, let's say, I used to, during my training days or during my professional
Mhm.
days, I used to go to sleep at 10 and wake up at 5. All right. And
Mhm.
now I go to sleep at, I don't know, 2:30, 3 a.m. at night and wake up at 10. I am sleeping the same amount of time, 7 hours. But am I doing something wrong?
No, I don't think it's about doing something wrong. But when you mention that, during your training hours you would sleep by 10, wake up by 5, well, that's going to be an ideal time to actually sleep and wake up. As I was mentioning, that body has its own clock,
Right.
known as a circadian rhythm, right? So, to walk you through that circadian rhythm briefly, what happens in the body is that around from midnight, so 12
Mm-hmm.
to about 3:30 is the time of deep sleep,
Right.
right? So that is going to be the time when, if you cross that time, means you've already crossed your deep sleep phase, and
Mm-hmm.
now you're not going to be able to cover up for that deep sleep during the rest of the hours. So
Mm-hmm.
you are getting the right quantity of sleep,
Right.
but when it comes down to quality, the sleep wake cycle, the internal cycle of our body is already messed up.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that I'm sleeping by 10, that's why I say that's an ideal time, is because that's when from 9 o'clock in the night to about 11 o'clock in the night, our body secretes
Right.
melatonin.
Okay.
This melatonin is a sleep inducing chemical.
Okay.
So melatonin starts secreting from 9 o'clock. It will start up until 11 o'clock. That's when you actually start feeling drowsy,
Mm-hmm.
heavy.
Right.
How many times have, if you're just sitting watching TV, or doing something that doesn't require conscious awareness,
Mhm.
you will actually notice that your eyes are feeling heavy,
Right.
where you start leaning a bit, where you start sliding on your bed.
Sure.
um your consciousness starts dropping to some extent, where your brain is indicating you that, hey, it's time for you to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Once we pass that, so there are times during exams, or during yeah, like, even when we are having these late night video calls or video
Sure.
chat with friends, we tend to maybe consume caffeine to some extent,
Right.
and caffeine doesn't always have to be coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It can be anything, like, I'm consuming tea, I'm consuming alcohol. That is a sleep obstructor. So
Okay.
now you're asking the melatonin to stop and forcing your brain to be awake by using an external force,
Mm-hmm. Right.
right? So now you're saying that, no, you can't sleep. You can't sleep. You have to stay awake. You have to talk to your friends, or you have to finish this TV show,
Sure.
right? Where uh, people, I have had people coming to me and saying that, I really like my midnight snacks
Mm-hmm.
while I'm watching my TV or while I'm watching a movie,
Sure.
right? These factors are sleep obstructors or hinder sleep
Mm-hmm.
or the normal sleep wake cycle,
Sure.
which is why an ideal sleeping time would actually be around 10:30 to 11:30. An ideal waking up time would be somewhere around 6 to 7:30,
Mm-hmm. Right.
because about 6:30 to 7:30 when melatonin will stop secreting, and now the chemical responsible for alertness, which is the adenosine, will start secreting.
Sure. Sure. All right. Makes sense. But I had one question related to,
Yeah.
this. Athletes, like,
Hmm.
before tournaments or when they're preparing for big matches,
Hmm.
they usually do not get sleep, right? Because of nervousness, there's so much pressure, there's so much, going on in
Hmm.
your mind. So, what can be done? Like, are there any quick hacks or, anything that can be done to, in case you do not get the required amount of sleep before the big match, to at least recover some amount of your energy?
Absolutely. So, often sleep exists on a spectrum. So it's never like I'm getting a complete 9 hours sleep, or
Mm.
it's never like I'm getting no hours of sleep,
Right.
right? It is always on a spectrum. And with this, right, with our biological mechanisms, we also need to take into consideration that what are these lifestyle factors
Sure.
that are affecting the quality and quantity of sleep, such as work schedules and stress, as you rightly mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Right, when we are anxious, when we are stressed about tomorrow, there are times when we start lucid dreaming. right? That's
Right.
more of I am consciously aware that I'm dreaming. Now we
Mhm.
start creating scenarios in our head that
Right.
what if this happens? What if I'm not able to fare well? What if I lose? What are people
Sure.
going to think? These multiple questions come up before any big event,
Right.
right? Now that could be a test series, or that could even be like a national or an international tournament. During such times, it's going to here are some few healthy sleep tips um, that I would like to talk about. The first
Right.
is to create a sleep schedule or a bedtime routine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is this bedtime routine? Right? Usually, not consuming caffeine at least about 7 hours before you go to sleep
Right.
is going to be number one. The second thing that you can do is avoid using screen at least 2 hours or 1.5 hours before you're going to bed. So a
Mm-hmm.
complete no, because the minute we have our laptops or the minute we have our mobile phones, we are more tempted to actually talk to people,
Sure.
to tell them I'm feeling so anxious, I'm feeling so stressed, and this may actually increase the stress or anxiety levels as opposed to reducing them.
Sure.
um, the next would be to create a sort of a more healthy room environment so where you're sleeping. So aromatherapy, like lighting scented candles,
Mm-hmm.
or at the same time even cleaning your bed, changing the bed sheet
Mm-hmm.
or the pillow covers before you go to bed can actually facilitate sleep.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not getting sleep, avoid staring at the clock,
Okay.
because the more you are staring at the clock, is like, oh my god, now I have 3 hours before my match, now I have 2 hours before my match, and that actually increases or aggravates the anxiety or the stress levels.
Sure.
Especially for athletes, avoid exercising or doing rigorous exercising before going to bed,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because that can lead to release of adrenaline,
Right.
which is energy sort of a chemical, right? And we don't want that right before we are going to sleep, because now that is going to keep us awake.
Sure.
A complete no to heavy food and alcohol consumption
Mm-hmm.
before you go to sleep, because again, you need to give your body at least 3 to 3.5 hours to digest,
Mm-hmm.
and completely, and it's also said that you need to keep that 10 to 20% of your stomach empty for a
Sure.
well rested sleep, because when your stomach is excessively full, then there is also a chance of oversleeping.
Right.
You can also identify these stressors, what is pulling you down,
Mm-hmm.
by getting in touch with a mental health professional.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is not just okay, I have a match tomorrow and I'm going to reach out to a professional say one
Right.
hour before,
Right.
right? It takes time, because since therapy is not a magic wand,
Sure.
it is going to take some amount of time for you to identify those stressors and then start managing them effectively.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, definitely do check-ins with your therapist, and it's not like only if I have some mental health concern can I go to a therapist.
Right.
Just to maybe vent and just to talk about how I'm feeling also really helps.
Sure.
uh,
Yeah.
One very important thing would be taking a warm water bath
Mm-hmm.
at least 1 to 1.5 hours before you go to sleep. And why warm water? Because when you're taking that bath and when you step out, your body temperature has shot up
Right.
because of the hot water.
Right.
Now, to come back to room temperature, it takes at least an hour. Now, once the body starts cooling down and starts coming to room temperature, is when you actually start feeling drowsy. When
Mm-hmm.
you start feeling, now your body is now coming to terms with room temperature, cooling down, restoring everything that it has been throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
in a state and preparing itself to get into a state of rest.
Right.
So a warm water shower or a warm water bath can actually help. I would recommend not shower and bath. Why? Because when you actually use the tumbler and the bucket,
Mm-hmm.
it's also you being more mindful of how much water you're taking,
Right.
how the water is falling, where is the water falling. So
Right.
mindfulness plays a very important role here.
Sure.
Um, Identifying, again, as I said, identifying the stressors throughout the day. So practicing at least 10 minutes of reflection, or in form of writing, in form of just maybe voice recording about how your day has been, what were the kind of different emotions that came up for you through the day,
Mm-hmm.
really helps in reducing a worry before bedtime.
Right.
Planning some activities which are not related to maybe your field,
Mm-hmm.
right? So not watching sports on television before you have a match the next day,
Sure.
talking to
Okay.
people who are outside of your field,
Mm-hmm. Right.
because that provides you with different perspectives
Sure.
and lightens your emotional state.
Sure. Great.
Yeah. um, some of the other quick hacks would be managing your expectations.
Right.
Remember not to worry about the time. It's okay even if it's 1 o'clock you're not getting sleep. Don't be hard on yourself saying, why am I not getting sleep?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, worry tends to obstruct sleep,
Mm-hmm.
um, and not facilitate it. Use affirmations if that is something that's helping you to keep up your morale and your spirit right before any tournament or matches.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, you can try a visualization technique. So there are different visualization scripts, such as beach imagery, forest imagery,
Right.
and you can also make it more specific to on-field imagery.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Um, right, so that
Right.
varies
Right.
depending on the concern you have.
Of course. Of course. So, apart from this,
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on power naps during the day?
Oh yes, I would really, you know,
And what's an ideal amount of time for a power nap?
yes. So about 30 minutes
Okay.
is a good time.
Mm-hmm.
A study conducted by the Sleep Foundation has highlighted that how power naps at regular intervals, so either during the morning time, if you have had a really early morning, so late
Mm-hmm.
morning around 10:30, 11, you can quickly take a 30-minute power nap. It can
Okay.
also be, for some people, they need a power nap after they have had lunch. But remember, please do not take the power nap immediately after consuming food. At
Mm-hmm.
least give your body half an hour to 1 hour to process
Sure.
the food before you actually go into that state of rest. But 30
Sure.
minutes would be an ideal time, and power naps actually help you strengthen information, um, at least for that period of time that for instance, 10 morning 6 to 12, I've had like rigorous training.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to quickly take a power nap for about 20 to 30 minutes to consolidate, to strengthen how I have not only just what I have learned or what the training involved, but also how I have felt emotionally.
Right.
Right? So it actually provides um, a sense of reflection, insight, um, into your own thoughts and emotions, making you more functional for the latter half.
Mm-hmm. Right. Great. Great. So, yeah, to wrap it up, what are your thoughts on sleep music?
Oh yes. So so sleep music such as delta wave sounds or binaural sounds
Mm-hmm.
actually tend to mimic or mirror that that phase of sleep, which is the deep sleep phase.
Right.
Right. So these sounds are created at a particular range of frequency in order to provide you that state of rest, in order to actually externally make your brain mirror that particular pattern of
Mm-hmm.
rest.
Right.
So I would highly recommend delta wave sounds and binaural sounds, which are freely available on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I would recommend would be guided meditation or sleep meditation, which is again freely available on YouTube. And these sleep meditations are for about 2 to 3 hours to 4 hours. So you can
Mm-hmm.
just play it and you can go into that deep sleep
Right.
phase. Apart from that, abdominal breathing,
Mm-hmm.
um, a breathing technique known as 4-7-8. So inhale at the count of 4,
Mm-hmm.
hold for 7 seconds, and exhale at the count of 8,
Right.
is a scientifically proven breathing technique to induce sleep. So for some people where sounds may act as distraction to sleep, you can definitely try this 478 breathing technique to help you facilitate.
Sure, sure. So yeah, I mean, thank you so much, Vishwa. I mean, I'm sure all the athletes and whoever's listening would have gotten, much more detailed knowledge about sleep. And I hope you guys who are listening use the information, not just listen to it, and actually at least follow or use two of the tips Vishwa has given us. And so, yeah, thank you so much, Vishwa. And why don't you tell us where people can get in touch with you and if you offer any consultation service?
Yes. So usually I have a 15-minute consultation policy
Sure.
where I speak to the client to understand their concerns better. After which I decide if I can take on the client or not. And in any case, if I'm not able to provide you with the right kind of help, I will refer you to a specialist based on your concerns.
Right.
Um, and you can get in touch with me via WhatsApp because I think that will be easier. So yeah, please feel free to contact. The WhatsApp number would be 9930539907. Um, and do drop in a message, not only to maybe it cannot be like a major concern, but don't think that minor issues cannot be discussed.
Sure.
So let's just talk about what is making us feel stressed, anxious, to increase productivity levels and to increase to just facilitate overall and holistic well-being.
Wonderful. And where can people find you on Instagram or social media, anything?
So Instagram, my handle name is Wellness Butterfly. So you can definitely get in touch there, and I'm also on LinkedIn. You can just type Vishwa Modi, and you are going to be able to search me there.
Perfect. So, listeners, we'll have all the information, the number, the social media handles on the show notes. So, do get in touch with her for any requirement if you feel the need to do so. So, thank you, Vishwa, and hope to have you back with us again soon.
Yes, sure. Thanks for having me here, and I hope this was helpful in some way or another. And always going to be there for any queries, questions, concerns. So feel free to drop a message.
Most definitely. Take care.